Good morning. We're here with the How Do I with Quality Sewing and Vacuum. I am Robin Coffin, one of the general managers, and today we're going to talk about chenille using fabric panels. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is get your fabric panels. This is the panel I used. It has lots of leaf motifs on it, and I actually purchased 5 panels, and the first step was to cut them all apart and then sort them so that you have a stack of 5 of the same panel. And that's this. I'm going to go ahead and sit down and get started on this process. The first thing you want to do is take your stack of panels and pick a couple of points that are opposite. I'm going to use the point of this leaf and the point of this stem, and I am going to put my pin here and then match that all the way through the stack. And this one, like I said, I used 5. I actually have 6 stacked up here because I have the gray or the brown, and at the very bottom I have the darkest color that I really didn't want to have my finished pillows, but I thought it would be a good base to really come through on the color. So here, and then here's that darker one. This is the chocolate brown that I didn't really want to use in my living room. Okay, so those are all matched. Now I'm going to go to the other side and do the same process through all of them. And the reason I'm doing this is we want those to be stacked up so that the pattern is lined up all the way through. That way, once it's stitched, cut, and chenilled, the pattern really reads through, and it's not you don't have odd lines that don't belong. All right, so there's the last one. So I'm going to make sure those are lined up, and then just to keep it in place, and you can see when I cut them, I didn't make sure they were squared. That doesn't matter at that point. We'll square it up later. I'm going to just use a couple of wonder clips to make sure those layers stay put. Remove my pins. And then we want to draw a diagonal line. I'm going to use my friction pen and put a diagonal line across this. I'm left-handed, so I need to turn this. Corner to corner. Oh, it slipped a little bit. All right, and then we'll go to our machine, and we're going to stitch this line, and then using the width of the foot, we're going to stitch channels back and forth until the entire fabric is filled with stitching. I'm using the number 1 foot on my fob. The width of this foot is going to be about a 3/8 inch channels. Flip out of the way. I can just flip it around. I don't have to trim my thread. I can just loop it and start the next one. So it's just back and forth, back and forth.
So you're using the foot as your guide?
I am. So I'm just running the edge of the foot right along the previous stitching line. And honestly, if you waver a little bit, it's not a big deal, because when you cut it and it fluffs up, as you can see on the samples, you're not going to be able to see that. Just a smidge more. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to go back and forth until the entire panel is stitched. My thread cutter, but I have one already done. So I'm going to set this one aside, and this is what it's going to look like once you've done that stitching back and forth. The next step is to cut the channels. So we have the chenille cutter. This is from Embellish, and it's got this little guide that's going to go between the bottom layer of fabric and all of the rest of the, and then all the rest of the fabrics. And then you're going to cut everything except the bottom. I used 5 layers that I'm going to be cutting through, and it's a little rough to get this started. And right in the directions it says to go ahead and use your shears to get it started. So you want to go in and cut about a 1/2 inch. Making sure you don't cut that bottom layer, because then everything just falls apart. Just do a few here.
So you're cutting in between your stitched
in
lines.
between my stitch lines. And then, once I've got a few of those started, I'll take my chenille cutter, slide it in, get in there, and then pressing down, it's just going to cut right through all except that bottom layer. Once you get going, it's pretty good. Getting that first couple. There we go. And this just has a little tiny rotary blade in it. When you push down, it pushes that blade down in and cuts through all of those layers for you, nice and slick. I've done lots of things. When I did my Seattle Skyline pillow, I didn't have the slash cutter, so I did that using scissors. And that was very tedious. So now this is so much faster. Just slide that in, push down, and cut right through. So again, you do all of those, and guess what? I have one already cut. So this is what you'll end up with. At this stage, you can do one of two things. You can either chenille it now using your chenille brush, or you can trim it to size, put everything together, and then chenille it once it's made. I prefer to chenille after everything's already stitched, so that's what we're going to do for this one. So the next step is to trim this. I am going to leave about 1/2 inch all the way around. So I'm using the printed block as my guide. I'm going to use my rotating, this is awesome. This is a rotating cutting mat. If you push down on it, it sticks to the table, but then it rotates, and when you're cutting, it locks in place, so you don't have to worry about it shifting. Don't usually cut sitting down. I have to give a little more pressure. I can turn it. I'm going to go again, 1/2 inch. All the way around. By using the rotating cutting mat, you don't have to worry about distorting your fabric, well, unless you shift it with your ruler as you're turning and cutting. And one more side. So now I have my block, and I'm ready to piece that into my project. When I'm piecing using the chenille, you can see this has got quite a bit of weight in it with those 6 layers of fabric. And if I just pieced a piece of regular quilting cotton onto that, it would be much different texture. So I like to use warm and natural batting, or embellish bamboo batting. That's what this one is. And then your strips and your chenille piece will have about the same texture, or the same weight. So just lay that on, go to my machine. Normally I would put my 1/4 inch foot on, but I don't have it out with me. So I'm going to go just inside this foot, which is right at 1/4 inch. And now I will trim that. And I'll use my roll and press to flatten it out. Now I can choose my next one. Oh, that one's a little short. Can't use that one. Let's do this one. Oh. Okay, we'll use one of these that fell on the floor earlier. There we go. Put this one next, so put it with the batting. And I'm just doing around and around until my square is the size I need for my pillow. Match my edges. Again, a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Thread. Turn that one off. And I would just keep building until I had it the size of one of the pillows. Once that's all done, we would then be ready to chenille. And I'll show you on this one how easy that is. So all channeled, all cut, ready to go. I'm going to take my chenille brush and you just scrub it back and forth. The more you work it, the fuzzier it's going to get. Chenille actually has, the interpretation is a caterpillar. I think it was French. And you can see how fuzzy that's getting. You can also throw it in the washing machine, and that will really fuzz it up. But for my pillows, I didn't want to throw those in the washer. I wanted to just use my brush. So you can see how fuzzy that's getting. The more you brush it, the fuzzier it gets. And you can see on this little wall hanging, that one I only used 3 layers instead of the 5 that I have on my pillows. So it doesn't have quite as much definition in the pattern, but it still works.
So, question, Carolyn
Yes.
would like to know, where did you get your chenille brush?
At Quality Sewing and Vacuum.
We
have those in stock.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
include a link to that in this
Yes.
post.
And the chenille cutter, we have those in stock also. All right. Any other questions?
Not any at this time. Can
All
you show
right.
us both the pillows? So both the pillows that
Yes.
were created with that same idea in mind, that it was kind of a sew and flip on the
Right.
edges.
So there's this one. Move it over. And then this one. And these are Kimberbell pillow forms. They're the 18-inch pillow forms from Kimberbell that, guess what? You can also get those from Quality Sewing and Vacuum. Or this one is just I think it's 6 by 10 approximately. And this is perfect for the nape of your neck when you're watching TV, just to give your neck that little extra cushion. This one, as you can see, I haven't roughed this one up yet at all. So it's just trimmed, it's not cut. All right. Well, and that is how to chenille using fabric panels. Until next time, thank you.